Hello to research writing students. Welcome to College Writing 2, which is going to focus predominantly on research writing and collecting research and the best way to basically use that to build arguments. So in this introduction, I'm going to give a brief overview of the syllabus. I'm going to show you a little bit about how the course will be organized on Populi, and then also just a brief introduction to research writing. You'll find under the lesson tab everything that's going to be expected of you for this week, and then each Monday there'll be a new lesson to just keep you on track for the rest of the semester. So really looking forward to working with you this semester, and I'm available at your service for helping you with your writing assignments and also collecting research, which can be quite an arduous task. It takes time, it takes a lot of energy, but hopefully you'll enjoy the project that you choose and or the subject matter that you choose, which you have quite a bit of flexibility in. So let me start off by just sharing my screen with you, and we'll be looking at Populi. So on Populi, which I have here, the dashboard is where most of the announcements will go, and of course I'll also like to send emails just to keep you up to date on any changes to the syllabus, any changes to the meeting times, and appointments and so forth. So always keep an eye on the dashboard. Under syllabus is where you will see the 2020 syllabus here, which you can also download. Just as a disclaimer for the schedule, which is listed on the syllabus, this is subject to change. I know that sometimes certain things come up and the course structure has to change, and that's totally fine, but I will try to update you, let you know if there are any changes to the schedule. And normally every semester there seems to be some changes, so thanks for being flexible, and try to just communicate as clearly as possible. So under the lessons tab is where you'll find the first, which is the week 1 introduction to the course, and I will go over specifics. Under the lessons, I am always going to have, what do I need to do this week, the actual lesson, and so forth that you can look over. So that's kind of just what Populi is going to look like, but I'm also going to share the syllabus with you so that we can go over that together. Okay, so the ways that we'll be meeting for class times is going to be unique. So you're able to view the lessons at any time, whatever works best for you. However, when it comes to like on-campus interaction or via Zoom, I'm going to be available on Mondays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. specifically to meet with students and to help them with any assignments that they might be struggling with, or with a writing assignment. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to have workshop from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., which is a great space where you can come and work together with your peers on writing assignments. And also, it's just great where we can write together. And if you get stuck in the writing process, you don't just stop and then move forward with something else. We actually can overcome that hurdle together, help you with whatever assignment you're working on. So course objectives, you'll be using research methods to locate and record credible information that is relevant to research projects. You'll assess information for its usefulness in the context of your papers and projects. You'll distinguish between primary and secondary sources. You'll learn how to effectively synthesize source information through quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing, which are just the 3 ways that we incorporate sources into our writing. You'll use Turabian-style documentation. We'll demonstrate college-level critical thinking in analyzing and interpreting research information, and you'll be developing theses for your research. So basically collecting research and then developing an argument around it. So those are just some of the course objectives, but my main goal for the course is to help you become a better writer. We're continually always improving in our writing, and so it is always going to be a process. It's always going to be hard work, but you will look back over the next, after coming out of college writing and out of your college experience, and you will see how much you have grown in your writing ability. For this class, there are only kind of 2 required texts. The first is Timothy Keller's The Reason for God, which I chose for kind of many reasons, which I will go into later, and one of the reasons why I've chosen this book. It's got a lot of logic in it. Timothy Keller is been a pastor in New York City for many, many years, and this book is a response to um, interviews that he's done with people who have doubts about the Christian faith. So he uses quite a bit of primary research in this text, so his own observations, interviews, surveys, and then he also uses secondary sources, so articles and journals that have already been written on the Christian faith. So it's a great text, and I'm hoping that the writing itself will be helpful for you to emulate and look at and analyze, because he uses quite a bit of logic, quite a bit of ethos and pathos in his writing, which we can emulate as well when we create arguments. So the other is the Writing Spaces Open Textbook Online, which is an amazing resource. We won't be going through every single essay, but if you have things that you want to learn about when it comes to writing, this is a great stop for that. I have an online etiquette or netiquette policy, which is just some good principles to keep in mind as you write on Populi, because the majority of our discussion will be written discussion online. For the teaching methods, of course, there'll be reading assignments. We'll have the Reason for God summary responses, which are going to be weekly summary responses on weeks where your major projects components are not due. And it's going to help you build a muscle for summarizing, paraphrasing, and then building off of what's already been spoken on in the text. The main project for this course is going to be a multi-genre research project, which basically means you're going to be looking at a particular subject from multiple angles and different genres. And it consists of a narrative assignment, an annotated reference list, an argumentative infographic, a rhetorical analysis, and a persuasive letter. So I've kind of moved away from the traditional research paper, which I'm sure many of you probably have to write in many of your classes, but this is just another way for you to look at research and how it can be used and different writing contexts for it. And I also hope that they'll be beneficial to you in the future, whatever writing project you choose. So the course will also be made up of peer reviews and individual conferences, which we'll talk more about throughout the course. I'm always willing to look over working drafts, look over your writing, so feel free to email those to me. I do have a long disclaimer or segment on plagiarism. Because this is a research writing course, you're going to be reading a lot of material and for your personal projects. And I think that I'm going to try to help you set you up for success so that you don't unintentionally plagiarize by taking someone else's work and putting it into your paper. But either way, I make very little distinction between intentional or unintentional plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism, we know, is when you're just taking someone else's work, not giving credit for it, and you're doing it because you haven't been able to think of something yourself to say. Unintentional plagiarism tends to happen just through sloppiness. You've collected sources, but you've not done a good job of organizing them and keeping them separate from your own work, and so it can just happen. It's very easy to spot plagiarism, and so I just want to encourage you to be very diligent in your research, so that anytime you read an article, you date and make note of who the author is, so that you're not unintentionally stealing their ideas or things that they've said and crediting it as your own. So that's a very big part of being a good researcher and ethical in your research. This is an online course, which is kind of new for us, but we're going to do our best to keep it as organized, interactive, and hopefully engaging as possible for you. I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit about the schedule and how the course is set up. So this is the only week where you'll have a video on a Wednesday. Normally on Wednesdays, we'll have writing workshop. But every Monday you will have, lessons to go through, and then your first assignments will always be due on Thursday, which can be composed of discussion board, and then Sundays will be when assignments are due. These will all be due at 11:59 p.m. On those nights. So just always kind of keep in mind that Thursdays and Sundays are going to be due dates for your assignments, and then Monday through Wednesday is really going to be prepping, reading, lessons, and so forth. So Thursday and Sunday, want to keep those dates, the dates that they'll be due. assignments will be due. So normally Thursdays will be discussion boards, Sundays will be responses to those discussion boards, and then any assignments that are due. That's going to be the breakdown of the course. And of course, I'll try to make sure that everything is included in the lesson so you know exactly what is due each week for you. So let's just talk a little bit about research writing. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you, and we'll go through this real quick. All right. So intro to research writing. Many of you already know me, but I have this introduction about myself. I was born and raised in Kennewick. I received my bachelor's degree in English from Eastern Washington University. I studied in Scotland for a couple of years, and I'm still highly involved in missions work and youth ministry. I'm currently enrolled in a master's program at ASU for English Studies. And if you don't know this already, Jane Austen is one of my favorite authors, and I'm also an Enneagram 1 Wing 2 if you like to study personality theory. So these are just a couple things about me. I probably might already know it, but it's just want to let you know. And then also, for your viewing pleasure, this is my dog Leo. He's an Italian Greyhound and just so wonderful. So hopefully you'll get to meet him in person. But let's talk about college writing. So why do we have to take a research writing course? This can be one of the big questions for people is, why do I have to take this course? Is it even really necessary? But it's going to be a course that helps build a muscle for research and writing about research. So it's practice. It is mistakes. It is learning different ways, building on it. And then hopefully you can take some of these principles and transfer them to your other classes, other writing contexts where you're required to use research, to use data. You want to learn how to use research to build arguments correctly using ethos, pathos, and logos. So there are rhetorical devices that have been written about for centuries and centuries about ways that we can use our argumentative skills to help persuade people to read the research, to understand the logic behind why we have a certain viewpoint. I know a lot of people aren't saying, I'm not interested in your opinion, but in some ways, I'm very interested in an informed opinion, which means that you've done research and your research is giving you insight into how maybe you should vote, into how you should approach your healthcare, and maybe for whether or not you should attend a certain college. You're collecting this research, and then you're using it to build an argument to either help your audience come to a better understanding or to persuade them to make a certain decision. There's also an ethics of collecting and handling research. We don't dive into it too much in this course, but it is supposed to help. It's always good to know that when we do research, we want to do it ethically. We want to be diligent. We don't want to be sloppy. We want to make sure that we do our best to handle research with care, which means that we don't want to taint it, we don't want to ruin it. We want to keep it sound and sturdy and true. And sometimes people can take research, pull it out of context, they can fudge numbers, all those different things. We don't ever want to do that. We want to make sure we're ethical in our approach. And then lastly, adhere to research writing genres and context. Research is not just a research paper. There are so many different ways that we use research in our day-to-day life to help us. I mean, I used it the other day. I was trying to find a particular place to eat, and so I went and looked at reviews, and then I looked at some of the data on that, and so forth. We use research all the time, but in the more academic sense, we're using it to build persuasive arguments. And then a couple good definitions, terms that you'll need to know is the difference between primary and secondary research. Primary research is data that you collect yourself through observation, surveys, and interviews, and there's going to be some practice work on that this week. And then secondary research is where it's research that has already been written and that we build upon or use for creating arguments. So that's the articles, the journals, the newspapers, all those things we're going, and that's secondary research that we pull. You might have heard it as a literature review, where you go and you read what all that has been written on a particular subject. That is your secondary research. It's not primary. You're not producing it. And then lastly, qualitative versus quantitative data. Again, these are just good terms to know. Qualitative data refers to any data, any research that has written answers or descriptions, and quantitative data refers to numerical statistics. So if I said, okay, 50% of Gather for Him students are female, I don't think that's true, but it's, if that were a statistic, right, that would be a quantitative piece of data because it's numerical. It's something that we can kind of crunch the numbers on, and it can be put into a percentage of. But if I make an observation about the Gather for Him campus, just a written observation about, it's located on this street and this street, its building is this many years old, so on and so forth. That is more qualitative data. It's true, it's research, but it's in that particular format. So these are some things that you'll want to just begin to notice, and you'll use it whenever you are writing up your papers. So whenever you have qualitative data or quantitative data in your papers, in your research, it always needs to come with citation. It means that we need to give credit for where this information came from. And so it's not, or if we produce it ourselves, then that will be part of it. So research writing has quite a lot of components to it. Where hopefully we'll be able to work together throughout the semester. I can help you with your research writing projects, and I'm definitely here as a resource for any questions that you have. And if you have any questions about this week's lesson, please reach out to me, and I will do my best to help you. And there's also an extra credit assignment available as well, and I hope you take advantage of that. I look forward to seeing you all very soon.